Hello everyone and welcome to your guide to popular builds and Heroes of the Storm. My name is Sarah in Death, and today we'll be checking out Johanna's Crusader Tank build. But before we get into any of that, a quick disclaimer. These guides are not written in stone. They are here to point you in the right direction, but ultimately they are a tool to help you learn the hero on your own. Now we've gotten through that, let's take a look at Johanna. She's a melee warrior from the Diablo universe, and after mucking about in sewers and casually strolling through the depths of hell, crushing the undead, demons, and greater evils under her boot, she has entered the Nexus looking for an apprentice to take up her shield and her cause if she were to fall. Her kit gives her a massive amount of control and a great deal of survivability so she can stick in the fight longer and punish her enemies more. Before we get into her talent build, let's take a look at her skills. Her trait is called Iron Skin. This is a 20-second cooldown that makes you unstoppable and gives you a shield that absorbs a massive amount of damage for 4 seconds. This is a very powerful ability that allows you to engage through the enemy lines, absorb a lot of burst damage, or escape. The amount of flexibility that this ability provides is massive by letting you perform your role as the tank unhindered for a short amount of time on a moderate cooldown. Her Q is called Punish. This is an 8-second cooldown that smashes enemies in an arc in front of you, dealing a moderate amount of damage and slowing them by 60% that decays over 2 seconds. This ability doesn't have a lot of range, but it does a decent amount of damage, and the slow allows you to control enemies, preventing them from getting to your back line or escaping. Her W is called Condemn. This is a 10-second cooldown AoE vacuum that after 1 second pulls nearby enemies towards you, stunning them for 0.25 seconds and dealing light damage to them. This ability provides a massive amount of control and disruption against the enemy, allowing you to peel for your team or pull them out of position, giving your allies a chance to pounce on them. Johanna's E is called Shield Glare. This is a 12-second cooldown skill shot that flashes blinding light to deal light damage to enemies and cause them to miss their next 2 basic attacks within 4 seconds. This ability has a moderate range, so you can finish off very low health heroes and helps prevent a large amount of incoming damage from auto attacks. Now we've covered her basic abilities, let's take a quick look at her heroics. Her first heroic is called Falling Sword. This is a 60-second cooldown AoE ability where you leap high into the sky toward an area. While in the air, you can steer the landing location by moving. After 2 seconds you land, dealing heavy damage to nearby enemies and knocking them into the air. This heroic gives you a great amount of engagement potential, allowing you to completely bypass the enemy's front line and slamming into their back line, disrupting the enemy and giving you the potential of wreaking havoc on their formation. Her second heroic is called Blessed Shield. This is a 60-second cooldown skill shot that throws your shield, dealing heavy damage and stunning the first enemy hit for 2 seconds. Blessed Shield then bounces to 2 nearby enemies, dealing moderate damage and stunning them for 1 second. This is a very powerful tool that allows you to deal some solid damage while also disrupting the enemy team with stuns, allowing you to completely change the face of a team fight. Now we've covered her base abilities, let's get into the talents. At level 1, you have a choice to make, which comes down to personal preference and what map you're on. If you're looking at getting some extra wave clear, or you're in a map where wave clear is incredibly important, then you will go with Knight Takes Pawn. Now Condemn does additional damage to minions and mercenaries, and stuns them for 3 seconds. This talent allows you to clear massive waves by yourself, and even chunk mercenaries. However, if wave clear isn't that important, or your team has plenty of it, and the enemy team has a lot of poke, then you may want to go with Regeneration Master. This is a quest talent that gives you 1 health regen per second whenever you gather a regen globe, stacking up to 30. After gathering 30 globes, you also gain 500 health. This talent allows you a bit more sustain in those long drawn out engagements, and the extra health can go a long way to soaking up more punishment in team fights. At level 4, you're going to take Laws of Hope. This is a 60-second cooldown that allows you to heal 20% of your max health over 4 seconds. The talent also gives you a small amount of passive health regen. This is purely a sustained talent. The passive health regen will keep you close to full health when dealing with poke comps, and the extra burst of healing from the cooldown will help sustain you during team fights, taking some pressure off your healer. At level 7, you once again have a choice to make. The choice purely comes down to personal preference. Your first choice is Blessed Momentum. Now your basic attacks will reduce your basic ability cooldowns by 0.5 seconds. This allows you to put out more abilities, to deal more damage, and disrupt the enemy team even more. Your other option is Conviction. Now your movement speed is increased by 25% while Condemn is charging up. This allows you to catch enemies that are fleeing from you or trying to dive deeper into your back line, giving you more flexibility with Condemn. For Johanna's Heroic, you're going to go with Blessed Shield. While Falling Sword saw some changes, adding in more damage and another stun to your kit just gives you even more control over the battlefield and is very difficult to pass up. At level 13, you have another choice to make, which mostly comes down to personal preference. Your first choice is Burning Rage. This gives you a fire aura that deals light damage per second to nearby enemies. With Johanna's kit, keeping enemies close will be a very easy task, so you'll be able to get a nice bit of sustained damage out of this talent. Your other choice is Hold Your Ground. This increases Iron Skin's shield by 20%, and if the shield is destroyed by damage, the cooldown is reduced by 4 seconds. This is another defensive talent that allows you to soak up a lot of extra damage. The cooldown reduction is also very helpful against comps that are trying to focus you down. At level 16, you have a choice between a few talents. If you're looking for more sustain, then you will go with Holy Renewal. Now for every enemy you hit with Shield Glare, you're going to heal for a moderate amount. This gives you a lot of extra self-healing and sustain if you manage to hit multiple enemies with Shield Glare, allowing you to stick in the fight longer and take some pressure off your healer. If you're looking for a bit more damage during team fights, then you will go with Blessed Hammer. Now Condemn also creates a hammer that spirals around you, dealing light damage to enemies. This talent in conjunction with Burning Rage and Johanna's kit allow you to put out a decent amount of damage during team fights. And last but not least, if the enemy team has a lot of auto attackers that are focusing you, then you may want to go with Imposing Presence. Whenever enemies attack you, they will have their attack speed slowed by 40%. This is a solid defensive talent that allows you to prevent a great deal of damage in team fights. Just remember that the enemy will only have their attack speed slowed when they attack you. The moment they switch to another target, their attack speed will return to normal. At level 20, you're going to go with Indestructible. Now upon taking fatal damage, you will gain a shield equal to your max health for 5 seconds. This is a massive defensive ability that will allow you to soak up a ton of damage, and it will give your healer enough time to try and top you off. The cooldown for this ability is pretty long, so you don't want to rely on it, but having it just in case will save your life more than once, and can help turn a team fight your way by allowing you to stick in the fight just a bit longer. Johanna's Crusader Tank build is a very strong build that allows you to be an incredibly durable frontliner with good sustain, a massive amount of crowd control between all of her slows and stuns, and solid peel with Condemn. She has great wave clear with Knight Takes Pawn, and can deal steady damage in team fights, putting pressure on the enemy healer. However, she has no real escape outside of Iron Skin, which allows her to soak some damage and prevent some CCs. And all of her skills are either skill shots or require good positioning to get maximum effect. Alright, now that we've gone over all of that, let's go over some quick tips for Johanna. Your job as the tank is to disrupt the enemy team and peel for your own. What that means is, when the team fight starts, you don't want to run directly into the enemy's back line. You want to slow them down, pull their heroes out of position, and peel enemies, or pull them off your own back line so they can dish out damage in relative safety. Positioning is very important for Condemn. Enemies will be pulled to you, so you need to make sure that you aren't yanking people out of heroics, and you don't want to pull enemies on top of you, body blocking yourself into a cubbyhole. Condemn also has a micro stun, which can be used to interrupt some channeled abilities and heroics. So if you're facing off against an enemy like Lily, then you may want to save Condemn for Jugs. That being said, if the enemy team jumps in your back line, it would be more beneficial to pull them off with Condemn and save Blessed Shielded Stun out of Heroic. Remember, you have options. Save Iron Skin to soak up massive burst damage or prevent some CC. The shield from Iron Skin doesn't last forever, so try and use it only when you need it. Don't use it to soak up minor poke damage, instead use it to, say, prevent a mosh pit or soak up some Li Ming burst for a teammate. This is a very powerful tool that has the potential to waste a lot of the enemy's cooldowns. And Shield Glare can be used to stall enemies on objectives from a somewhat safe range. If your team is on their way and the enemy is trying to cap the last tribute for a curse, then you can stall with a long-range Shield Glare, giving your team enough time to move in and help. Just remember that Shield Glare has a somewhat long cooldown, so you'll likely only be able to stall them once without moving in. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found this guide helpful. If you have any variations or tips for this build, feel free to share them in the comments below. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, I will catch you all later.